Wherever you are and however you're listening, thank you so much for being back with us on another episode of Winning the Moment. Today is one I've been so excited for. I have the CEO of LoveSac, Shawn Nelson, and if you listen to the entire episode, we're going to save you 25 years today by listening to all of his incredible insights. Be sure to like and subscribe, and most importantly, thank you so much for being back with us on another episode of Winning the Moment. Today I have a legit local celebrity, and not just a celebrity locally, but really anywhere. Shawn Nelson, the CEO of LoveSac. Shawn, thanks for being here with us.
It's great to be here. Thanks.
It's amazing the amount of talent and people we have living in Southern Utah.
Heck yeah.
You know, like who would have thought? The fact that I've got the CEO of LoveSac sitting across from me in the same room is a pretty cool experience.
I don't know, maybe myself excluded, but we do have a lot of talent around. It's a good place to live.
Oh man, no doubt. How long have you been back in Southern Utah for? Because you guys moved and like opened up that other little smaller branch here a couple years ago. Is that right?
Yeah. So the quick version is we started LoveSac in Salt Lake City, Utah. Eventually moved it to Connecticut.
I saw that.
Reasons, yeah, we'll get into probably. And then 10 years out there, all my kids were born there. Moved back to Southern Utah because my wife's family kind of migrated down here and we wanted the kids to grow up near their grandparents, etc. So that's 2017. And now we've been here for 6-7 years.
It's such a great place to live.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it doesn't get any better than that.
No, don't tell anyone.
Yeah, I know, right? It's our little secret. Well, today we're going to be talking about Shawn's awesome book, Let Me Save You 25 Years. I love the concept of it and the idea behind like, look, I've gone through all these trials and tribulations. Let me help you out. And then you've also got your podcast, same moniker, same name.
Yep.
And you had Jax Taylor on your podcast, which I'm a big Vanderpump Rules fan. That's like my dirty little pleasure.
Yeah,
I remember my wife watching it and was like, "What are you watching?" She's like, "It's a show about people who work at a restaurant." I was like, "You watch the weirdest stuff." Sat down and watched it and I was like, "Huh, I'm interested." That was like 10 years ago and I've watched all of them, you know?
Totally.
So I was curious, what's your connection with Jax?
Jax is just a LoveSac fan, you know, like any dad raising kids, building a family, wanted Sectionals, became friends of the brand, friends with him, and just kind of reached out and said, "Hey, come on my podcast. I have interesting people talking about interesting topics." And given his colorful background, I mean, that's one of the things I try and do with Let Me Save You 25 Years, the podcast, is to get people on that aren't necessarily, you know, business people in the classic sense, but they're business people. Like Jack's a business person.
Yeah, right. His reality TV show is a business. Yeah. He's got his bar. It's a business. He himself, his brand is a business.
That's right. And a lot of people I don't think even sometimes think of themselves as entrepreneurs, but they are.
Yeah.
And we all learn the same lessons. Like these 25 little lessons we unpack in the book, you know, you've learned the same ones. We all learn the same ones and more. And I find it really interesting to unpack them with successful people in any realm.
Yeah, I love that. And that's so cool. It's basically what I'm trying to do here is bring on different people's different walks of life. And, you know, we all have our own interpretations of what success is. So I love to hear it from other people because I think the beauty of success is you get to define it for yourself.
Yeah.
And so, you know, maybe you love Jax's definition and you can pursue that, or maybe you love Shawn's, or maybe you love mine. But I don't think there's a right or wrong. It's about the pursuit that you want to take.
Absolutely.
That's so cool. Okay, so I got to talk about the Sectionals really quick, just because I love them.
Cool.
So obviously, I'm sure people are familiar with the big beanbag chairs, and I didn't grow up in Utah. So I moved to Utah my sophomore year of high school, and seemed to be all my wealthy friends had these huge beanbag chairs, and they're movie theater rooms, you know?
They're not cheap.
And I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And I always wanted one, but we never had one because not only are they not inexpensive, but they're also massive. So you got to have a big enough space to be able to house one of these beanbags. And I'm an avid Costco shopper. My wife and I are in Costco, and we had at the time a very small house. It was 873 square feet. And so you had to be really creative with the living room to make the most of it. And we hadn't really found anything that worked. And we're walking through Costco, and Sectional's there with the road show, and I had never seen him before. And they had like the building blocks to show you all the different ways you could build it, you know? And we have 2 dogs, and at the time our kids were, I think 3 and 5, so young kids. And I was like, this is the greatest thing in the world. Like I can literally just unzip it, throw it in the washing machine, and then like I can clean my couch, you know? And because we had this very limited space, it allowed us to make the most of it because we could set it up however we wanted. And I've got like a picture of my kids in that same little living room where I turned it into like a movie theater, and I gave them each their own armrest, and we had the cup holders. And I used to, every time people would come over, I would like take it apart and show them.
Yeah.
Because I just thought it was so incredible, you know? And even like the blankets with the feet in it.
Yep.
How did no one think about that before?
I love it. Our customers are our best salespeople. Thank you so much. That's awesome.
And it was I was telling you off camera. So I bought this Sectional. At the time, it was a lot of money for us. It was not inexpensive, but I was like, well, I feel like we can grow with this forever because at any point we could even change the way it looks if we wanted, or add additional pieces, or turn it into 2 pieces. And then the next day, I believe it was the Rise event in St. George, or maybe it was Economic Summit. I can't remember. And you were the keynote, and I was like, I love the universe. Like this is the greatest thing. And you and I actually recorded a video on like your social.
Yeah.
And I talked about the Sectional. So it's like, what a small world. Bring us back together.
Yeah. Look, I feel really grateful to have a product that can be in millions of homes and affect people's lives. And it sounds benign, you know, like it's a couch, like who thinks really about their couch? But I think, you know, that's been a big part of our success is we kind of stumbled our way into a category that was pretty stale in many respects and kind of overlooked. And we found blue ocean there, and have, you know, claimed lots of patents and fended off competitors and knockoffs. I think the thing though that makes me happiest is if you choose, you'll have those Sectionals for decades. They are built to last a lifetime. And designed to evolve with you as you figured out on your own. And we don't even do a good enough job explaining that because there's so much to explain with the product just in this kind of sales process.
Sure.
But like I was telling you, some of my Sectionals are 17 years old. They're mated with, I don't know, they're on their 10th set of covers. They're mated with all of our new, you know, stealth tech, immersive surround sound, like all the things that we keep inventing can be reverse compatible with what you have. And my point is not to give a sales pitch, but we along the way evolved from, you know, this oversized beanbag brand that had some personality into couches because people were asking about the couch in our showrooms that was just there to look pretty. And we found a better way. But most importantly, we found this design philosophy that I talk a little bit about in the book called Design for Life. And it came from Sectionals. Like we had invented Sectionals to solve the basic problems that you discovered. Like you can wash it, you got dogs, kids, pets, real life, whatever. You need to move it. You need to ship it. It needs to fit in any room, like not just the home you bought it for, right? But the next home and the one after that.
Well, and even like I was gone when it arrived, and my wife was able to get it in the house and put it together by herself.
How cool is that?
You know what I mean? Like I came home and there it was.
Yeah.
And that was just amazing.
Yeah. And so beyond the product, it when we observed the reasons for its success, and it has been successful, it's probably the best-selling couch in the United States. LoveSac is in the top 20. I think furniture retailers, we sell like 4 products. And so to be at this scale, you know, last year we're a public company, so it's all, we did 700.
Yeah, you guys went on the stock market in 2018.
That's right.
And what a great symbol, love.
Yeah.
I mean, that's dope. That's as good as it gets.
Yeah, there's a whole story behind that. But we observed, like, why is this catching on? Why is this working so successfully? And that's actually what birthed that philosophy, the Design for Life philosophy, which will now, it's like we had the chicken before the egg.
Sure.
And now we have the egg and we will birth many, many chickens. And I think LoveSac is tragically underestimated to that end because, you know, we kind of just appear to be this goofy couch company, whatever, that kind of, you know, had some luck along the way and had big sales during COVID, like so many. But we were growing before, during, and after COVID. We continue to be, and we will continue because we'll continue to now leverage this philosophy and this purpose, right? To inspire humankind to buy better stuff like you did.
Yeah.
So you can buy less stuff.
Yeah.
Like our goal is so you never even buy another couch, right? You might add some of our pieces. We'd love you to do that. You may add some more covers. And that's the most sustainable way to make stuff. And nobody's really talking about that.
Well, no one does it either. Like if you had a fridge from 30 years ago, you better believe the food in that fridge is as cold as can be.
Yeah.
Like I built a house 2 years ago. My new fridge has already gone down like twice. And it's like, what the hell are we doing?
Yeah.
Like obviously we're more intelligent. We have better, materials. We have better understanding of technology. And yet in so many scenarios, we're building worse stuff. Even like your Bronco out there.
Yeah.
You know,
that's why I drive it. Like
they don't make them like that.
That's right. You could look at it and say, oh, you know, what's sustainable about that? the metal that went into that 1970 Bronco has never been resmelted.
Yeah.
It is the original energy that was taken from the earth and iron, 50 years ago. And I know that sounds wild, but I'm really into things that are built to last a lifetime. And I'm really proud of that. And that's something that we evolved into. I didn't start the company with that ethos, but I'm grateful to have found it. And I think it's just such a good, demonstration, hopefully for others. You don't, this day and age is so trendy to be purpose-led and have a vision. And it's great if you can.
Sure.
But it's also okay to evolve into it. We were just trying to survive. I made a big beanbag in college. People liked it. Their friends wanted one and their friends wanted one. And we were just trying to pay off our debt and kind of keep this company alive for so many years. For decades to some degree. And now we've built it into this truly sustainable business that I think will go on to do some great things. But we had to live it. We had to, jump in with both feet, and we didn't always have a purpose statement and a mission. We had different things along the way, but we've evolved tremendously. Yeah,
it's funny. You start a business sometime, even like with my hospitality business, we started it. We didn't have any of that. Mm-hmm. We didn't have like, here's our core values or here's where we're trying to go. It was just like, we're just trying to live to tomorrow.
Yeah.
And even some of the things too that I've loved about your product, even like the cup holders, that's not like rocket science, but they fit on the armrest. I can move it where I want it. And I literally use it every single day.
And you could park a car on it.
Really?
Oh yeah.
My kid uses them when he plays with his cars. He uses them as tunnels and bridges. And
those suckers would literally, I could drive my Bronco up on top of that thing. You know what I mean?
That's amazing.
They're just built in a way that nothing else is built. And back to your fridge, something breaks in that thing. Now what model do you have? What specific part do you need? My point being, if you ever needed a new cup holder, a back pillow for your Sactionals, they're just Sactionals.
Well, I have a great story about that. So my son, when he was 2, took it was like some cutter thing for cooking. I don't know what it was, like a pizza cutter, and cut up one of our cushions.
Yeah.
Just and any other couch, you would have just been like,
you're done.
Well, I guess we have to get a whole new couch.
And all of that's in the landfill. And by the way, 30% of our landfills are furniture because it's big.
Yeah, right. And you couldn't, it's like, depending on where you got it, it's like you can just get that one cushion back.
That's right.
So literally now this entire huge couch is either ruined or you're like putting a blanket over it or just whatever. And so we just called and we ordered a replacement fabric.
One cover of one cushion, you're brand new again.
And then so now I don't remember how much it was, maybe $200 or something. I don't remember, but negligible to the cost of an entire couch. Yeah. And then we even had, when we were moving into our new house, we had a storage unit on the damn road and it caught on fire.
Oh.
And so the whole thing burned down, except for our unit didn't burn down, but it had smoke damage and our beanbag was in it.
Oh no.
And we're able to just buy a new cover.
Yeah.
And we didn't have to lose the beanbag.
There you go.
But you would have otherwise, so it's like, I already have just had these experiences with it. And for me, if something truly is beneficial, I'm going to tell everyone about it.
Thank you.
I loved that you had your book. And when it first came out and I saw it on LinkedIn, I was like, oh, I love that. I love authors. I want to get them on. But I'm also just a huge fan of the product because it is what people need,
So cool. Thank you. Yeah. We have, so our, back to values, our number one stated core value at LoveSac is top ambition, which is not something you would kind of pin on a company called LoveSac that kind of started, as a side hustle in college. But, if you blink your eyes and give us another 25 years, I believe this silly little company will be an Apple, a Nike, a Tesla, a brand that is known around the world. And it will be known not necessarily for beanbags or couches, but for making the best stuff and doing it in a way that no one else does it. And ultimately our goal is not just to make the best stuff, but to build a relationship with you where you trust us, where you believe us. And so the next thing we bring you, you're in. And I think that will be the case. And so, and I'm pretty transparent about it because the reality is most business people are unwilling to go the distance where we're going because it's too tempting to, build your business and find an exit, make a bunch of money, and then spend your life surfing. And there are times where I wish that I had done that. There were times where I intended to do that. But what's amazing about being forced by the canny nature of bad luck and reality to grind it out for 25 years in our case is it's not made me impatient to get out. It's made me more patient because it's like, well, that wasn't easy, but here I am.
Yeah.
I'll go another 25. And when you have that, forget whether or not that happens. Forget, like I'm a public company CEO. I could be, removed tomorrow.
Yeah, you could be ousted.
Say the wrong thing or what, but
yeah.
But if I can thread the needle, forget me. When you have the mental framework of I'll go 25 more, what then can hurt you? Like a bad year, a bad economy, a bad situation like we're in right now for furniture, nothing hurts you because you have the stamina to go the distance. And so then you can make the right investments, make the right decisions, not just try to maximize your personal wealth, which is most people's objective, and build something. And I think that's rarely talked about. It's mostly just how do I get rich faster? Where,
how do you 10X this? How do you do that?
That's right. And by the way, I think I'll make plenty of money. Like people don't even need that much money, but I'll do fine. But the point is not that. The point is I am so now obsessed with the idea of really building something that's meaningful and useful and good for families like yours.
Yeah.
And the challenge of building a brand, which is a high challenge because it's easy to lose trust. It's easy to make mistakes. It's easy to take the shortcut. But if we do what I told you we intend to do, I think we will have millions of valuable relationships with families just like yours who will know us, trust us, and frankly, ultimately take almost anything that we deliver to them. And we'll have to do that very strategically. You can't just make a leap into.
Well, yeah. I mean, you think about Apple, it's like when they came out with something new, like the iPad, right? It's like, oh, well, Apple makes good products, so I'll do it or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Or they came out with the Apple Watch or they came out with AirPods. You just already have that built-in trust that you're just willing to
do the next thing. Think about this. Is it a mystery to you that your iPhone kind of stops working after?
I know it's intentional. I just had to get a new one.
I know. And so how much do you actually love that brand?
That's a good point. It's less that I love it and more that I've made it such a part of my ecosystem that I just need to replace it so that all my other stuff still works.
You respect it. You buy their stuff, no doubt. But do you actually love it? So our goal is not to become the biggest brand. In fact, our stated mission, and we are very clear on what we're trying to do. I told you about our purpose. Some of our values, our stated mission, like what we're actually trying to do here as a business, is to build the most beloved brand in the world. Not necessarily big. We'll never be the size of Apple because we refuse to sell you a couch. You got to buy a new one every couple of years. We're doing the opposite.
Because and that's why they don't make things as good as they used to, because you're incentivized as a company to have people turn over.
That's
and continue
correct.
To purchase from you.
And look, it was a great business model. If you're only interested in making money, we'll make plenty of money. But I'm interested in something different. And frankly, my goal is that by the time you've interacted with our products long enough, like you have, and had experiences like your pizza cutter experience, you start looking at your Apple device and be like, what is this BS? Like, what the crap?
Yeah, I just had to do it. I was pissed.
And the problem is you don't have a good enough alternative.
I don't.
But if I said to you, well, what does a design for life phone look like? What if it was built to last, maybe not a lifetime, a decade? What if what if the camera could be modular, like our friend, you know what I mean? And it's not that hard to imagine. And my point being, what's our opportunity with this brand? It's ultimately all the things. And our ultimate goal is to inspire humankind to not only buy better stuff so that less stuff is sold, but to inspire other companies to do business this way, not because, we're going to beat you over the head with guilt for the environment, but because we're so effing successful that this way of doing business is come to be expected. And the brands that have pillaged the earth in the way they behave, just chasing wealth, will ultimately be despised by people who have woken up and understand what's really going on. There's no reason that you got to buy a whole new set of jeans because it's all going baggy now. There's not some force in the universe like gravity that drives that. That is, you are being manipulated by a whole machine.
Yeah.
To be convinced that all your jeans are too tight now.
Yeah.
And it's BS. And I am pissed about it. And so my personal goal is not to get super wealthy. I hope it happens, but to frankly change this paradigm. And weirdly we'll come at it from a beanbag and a couch to start with.
Yeah.
And take it way further. And so, all of this combined, the 25 years, the ethos, the patience, the ambition. And so the last chapter in that book, right, it started with just do something. And in my case, I made a big beanbag.
Yeah.
But I did it. And from that came all of this, right? Because I got off the couch and did it. I didn't just have an idea. I took action.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of entrepreneurs who
Oh gosh, especially now.
won't actually take action. They'll listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
But what are you doing about
Right.
it? And look, I'm not trying to be critical. I'm saying I was just a stupid kid and impulsive. So I did get off the couch, go buy the fabric and make the thing.
Starting is the most important thing.
That's right. But the last chapter in that book, 25 of 25, is to maintain top ambition with infinite patience. And that's not something that a lot of entrepreneurs are known for, their patience. And I wasn't, certainly. But over this time, I've come to be more patient with everything. And frankly, I think it's a superpower, because when you cannot lose your ambition, don't mistake it for like, well, you've just lost your fight. No,
Yeah.
no,
You're just playing the long game.
that's right.
Alex Hormozy has a great quote, and I'm not going to get it right, but he's like, if you can do anything for a year, you can be good. If you can do anything for 5 years, you can be great. And if you do anything for 10 years, you can be like one of the best ever.
That's right.
And Malcolm Gladwell says it takes 10,000 years to be an expert at something.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's a long
10,000
period.
hours.
Yeah,
10,000
hours.
years is another eon. But yes.
10,000 hours, right? So that's a huge commitment.
That's right.
But it's true. If I started playing the saxophone, which I don't even know how to play, and I played it for 10,000 hours, by the end of that 10,000 hours,
You're a pro.
I would be phenomenal at it.
Yep.
But am I willing to suck at it for the first 4,000 hours?
That's right.
Yeah,
we moved to San Diego for a year with our family just a year ago. And there were reasons for, we were remodeling our home and we wanted to kind of have an adventure. And I often work, I mostly work remotely. It's pretty cool the way it's all come down, but moved to San Diego. I always wanted to surf. I never, I dabbled in it for years. And I had this simple goal with my kids. They had never surfed in their life. I said, we're going to go 100 times while we're here. And we had a year, so it sounds easy, but it's not. It's easy to, they're busy with school.
A lot.
You're busy with work and, things get in the way and the weather sucks and this and that. And it was so cool to watch, because by 20 times, they were still just getting beat down by the waves and, whatever. By 50, they were surfing. By 100, they are dropping in and, trying to get in a little barrel, trying to pop out. I mean, it was so cool to watch, but what it took were a lot of early, cold mornings, some bravery,
a lot of failure,
some near drownings, all that comes with it. And it just was such a stark lesson in my life. Anything that has been done can be done. And why not you?
Yeah.
If someone else has done it, are they that much more intelligent? Are they that much more capable? Like the guys that built Nike. I love that book, Shoe Dog. Phil Knight, Shoe Dog.
Such a good book.
Yeah, great book. And, but why can't I have a Nike? And so that's our ambition. And look, if
do you think you're that far from it?
Well, I don't know, man. Of course we are. I mean, it depends on what time scale you're talking about. I mean, the truth is we're not much smaller than Apple was 20 years in.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like for me, hearing you say that, and you obviously know more about it than I do, but from a brand recognition standpoint, I feel like at least within your space, certainly, it seems like you're there.
But who cares about couches, right?
Yeah. Well, I couldn't even name another brand of a couch.
That's right. That's right. And so there is the blue ocean, and it was an accident. I claim no genius in it, and I think it's easy to get down because you can't see that blue ocean opportunity, or you don't, or that's been taken now. Now where am I going to go? You just have to thrust yourself into the ocean and start surfing. And before you know it, you might discover a break that just works for you and that no one else has been on. And that, and that's the case for LoveSac. And I think it's still out there. I was thinking just last night how bummed I get sometimes when an idea I have and I want something and I just type in my weird idea to Amazon and oh my gosh, it's there. Someone makes this. Someone makes this oversized duffel. And it turns out it's for like a Christmas tree or something, but I want it for something else.
Yeah.
And you start to feel like, oh man, the world is closing in. They're like all the products have been taken. They've all been done now, especially with Amazon, especially with technology, especially with AI. And it feels like that sometimes, but I still believe if you thrust yourself into it and you have the commitment to see it through, the universe can take you places that no one's gone.
Well, and the thing is, all of stuff has always existed, but people do it differently, right?
Yep.
Like you didn't create a couch.
Correct.
You know what I mean? You didn't
Correct.
create a way to sit on something. You created a way to make it better.
That's right.
And what's interesting is like I wasn't in the market for a couch when I bought yours. I only bought it because of the flexibility of it.
Yeah, you just had a specific need and it happened to work. And
Yeah.
you're probably shocked at how expensive it was. But the cool thing is, I never feel bad about that because I know, even if you don't know at the time, I know what's going to happen. I know the pizza cutter's coming.
Yeah, right.
And I know eventually your experiences will lead you to understand our brand in ways that we couldn't explain to you standing in Costco because you didn't have the time.
Yeah. Well, and I think I also believe in Costco as a brand. So for me, if it's in Costco, like you've already covered one tier of trust, right?
That's
like,
right.
okay, Costco decided to work with you. Therefore, they've already vetted you. Therefore, it's already a good.
And that's why
product.
we're there.
Right.
You know? But we're not, but it's a small piece of our business and we love it, but it's for that exact purpose. You know, it's just another brick in the wall, just like the book, just like my podcast. It's another brick in the wall of trying to reach people and share this message.
I think that's so amazing. It's great to see someone who's making an effort to have something last. Because I never thought about the landfill thing, but I've given away like a lot of furniture in my life, like just me as one person.
Yeah, and even if you give it away, you know, I mean, a lot
ends
of
up there at some
it's
point.
going to end up there anyway. And so, look, I think it's cool that people are recycling plastic bottles and making shoes and making T-shirts and whatever. But we do that too. We probably recycle more bottles than all of them because it's millions of yards of fabric. We have significant scale, and it's all water bottles. You probably didn't even know that. The Sectionals you bought in gray are all made out of recycled plastic bottles.
Wow.
And they're not headed back to the landfill anytime soon, like that pair of shoes or that T-shirt is anyway. And so we're proud of the bottle thing. We don't lead with it.
Yeah.
As an owner, you probably didn't even know that
Yeah, I don't think I do.
because it's there if you look, but we don't wrap our story around that because that's not the sustainability we're truly interested in. I'm talking about sustain-ability, stuff that actually sustains, a company that actually sustains. Because it's not just about making Shawn rich and selling off and then it gets gobbled up by whatever because you know how that game is played out. And so, you know, look, LoveSac's a weird story. I think we're bigger than we were. As far as our ambition, we're barely getting started. And it's so embarrassing. You know, 25 years in, sometimes I say I'm as embarrassed as I am proud, you know, of working at the same company I started when I was 18 years old.
That's pretty amazing.
You know, because that's all the experience I have. You know, I'm like totally unmarketable.
And did you use a lawnmower to cut up the foam? Is that a story that's correct?
Close. We had so in the beginning, I first used a paper cutter. I chopped up my parents' camping mattresses on like, you know, the thing you chop paper with. Yeah.
You remember those from elementary school?
Yeah. I'd chop them in strips and chop them in cubes. And it took me weeks. And it was cool though, because it was squishy. It wasn't like a beanbag. These aren't beanbags, as you know. They're filled with foam.
Uh-huh.
And anyway, you know, it's like a giant pillow. And that was different than a crunchy beanbag. And so people liked it. And we had a thing going. And that was our market research. Our market research was throwing it in the back of a truck, showing
From
up
the drive-in movies.
at the
is that
drive-in
right?
or whatever, or the beach. And people were like, dude, that's so cool. I mean, that's market research.
Yeah.
And you know you have something. If that's people's reaction, you have something. That's what we call at LoveSac remarkable. It's remark-able. Like something came out of their mouth. Like you may like our name or not. You may think it's gross. But here's the point. You walk past us in the mall, even if you don't come in my showroom, you're probably singing that stupid song, or you're probably like, oh, I got a LoveSac. I'll show you my LoveSac, whatever.
Yeah.
But you're saying something. You're remarking. That's a remarkable name. That's a remarkable product. You fall down on it the first time. It's like, whoa, what came out of your mouth? That's a remark, right?
Yeah.
Make remarkable things, do remarkable things, you know, pursue remarkable brands, etc. And you're probably going to have some success. And so then as we started making more, I couldn't use the paper cutter. So then it was like, I needed to buy foam to make these things. I yellow page. This is before Google. That's how ancient I am. I yellow paged my way to a couch maker in downtown Salt Lake City. And I said, do you guys have, you know, you use foam to make these things? And sure enough, they make all this scrap. A lot of it ends up in the landfill. So they let us clean up around and we could shred up their scrap foam from all their couches.
Oh, wow.
And sell it to us at a cheap, you know, they just thought we were funny. And one day I was taking it home to chop it up. And on my third bag, I said, do you guys have any way to shred this stuff up? They said, oh yeah, we've got a foam shredder right back here. And they hadn't used it since the 80s. And what it was a grain grinder. It was a lot like a wood chipper, like, you know, like the kind you use in your backyard, put sticks into.
Yeah.
But it was run by an electric motor. And it was this little farm machine. And now we could stuff a sack in like an hour. It would shred it up and blow it out through this tube, and we could stuff a sack. So we had a business for like 3-4 years as a side hustle. I was going to school in the morning, studying business and Chinese. I'd served my mission in Taiwan and learned Mandarin. And that was a whole story in the book that.
Oh, it's a great story where you saw the fabric and the address was a Mandarin. And so they wouldn't tell you where it was, but you could just read it.
I just went to the factory.
Yeah.
I could read the Chinese. Yeah.
I love that because it's so funny to think, obviously, if it was behind you in regular English, then the story wouldn't be there. But because it was in Mandarin, but you could read it just the same.
Yeah. And look, you could call that lucky. And there's a chapter in that book, right? Make your own luck. You know, how do you get lucky? You learn Mandarin Chinese. You read books, you educate, whatever it is. My point is like, you could say, well, he got so lucky. Listen, my testimony of luck, when I learned that lesson from Richard Branson, so there's luck. I won $1 million on TV.
Yeah, I want to hear about that too.
With Richard Branson, he had a reality TV
show. It was
show.
basically like the Apprentice. It's his version of The Apprentice, kind of, right?
A lot like that. You know, instead of apprentices, he wanted entrepreneurs to duke it out and become his like protege. And I was made president of Virgin Worldwide. And my runner-up on the show was Sarah Blakely from Spanx.
No.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's amazing. You know, she was on the first episode of my podcast. Check it. It's amazing.
No, I saw that. So Sarah, I was just at a hospitality event earlier this year that she was at, and I didn't realize at the time she had any connection to hospitality. So I'm sitting there and I look over, I'm like, she looks a lot like Sarah Blakely.
Oh, cool.
And I text the guy and I was like, that's not Sarah, is it? He's like, yeah, but it's a secret. Like, we're doing a thing. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool, because I am a huge Jesse Eitzler fan.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Like his book, Living with a Seal, is it's like in my top 5. Cool. It's one of the best books ever, and he's such an inspiration. And so I saw her on your podcast, but I didn't realize she was on the show with you.
Yeah, we're great friends, and
that's so
Jesse's
cool,
amazing, and yeah, and so look, that you could say, you know, but it was laying on the roof of Necker Island with Richard Branson when we were talking about God and talking about just personal. I just won this show, and I was like his buddy now, and I said, he was asking what I believe, and I was asking him what he believes, and he said, I believe we make our own luck. And at the time, I didn't like it, because, you know, I'm religious and I believe in God, and luck just seemed so dismissive. But over many years and some really bad luck, you know, when just the timing's so wrong, you can't blame the universe. You can't blame God. You can't blame, you know, even like your own mistakes. It's like, this is just bad luck.
Yeah.
Okay. How can you believe in bad luck without believing in good luck? And my point being, you know, whether it's the TV show when we needed it, whether it's my Mandarin Chinese that was clutch at different times, you could call it luck, but I had to learn Mandarin. I had to go out there and, you know, serve my mission and do service, and I paid my dues. And when you do that, luck finds you, and that's how you make the luck.
100%.
And I think people sometimes just are so quick to point and say someone got lucky, but often, not every time. And the other problem is that so many of the articles and who knows, podcasts, who knows what, are written about the ones that have just some crazy success, some crazy exit, some crazy money, and some crazy luck. And so it's easy to believe that if you're not popping in 2-3 years or even 10 years or whatever it is, that somehow you suck. But the reality is there are just so many businesses, just like LoveSac, that struggle for 20.
Yeah.
Before they really break out.
Well, I think it makes people feel better about their lack of success if you were successful because you're lucky versus hard work.
Yeah.
Because you can't create, like, you can't, if they believe in luck in that sense, then it just has to happen. But if they knew that you had done all of that work, then they can no longer be like, well, Shawn's lucky, so of course.
Here's what I will tell you. If you're willing to just keep going, the luck will find you. Bad luck and good luck. But you also have to be doing the personal development. In my case, it was reading just like you. I read every book. Yeah. And that's why with this book, you know, I tried to do something different. Like, it's, as you know, it's a weird book. You can read it fast.
Yeah, it's different. There's pictures in it. And
yeah, it's like a coffee table book. It's just really raw. Like, those pictures aren't pretty, but they're the only ones I have.
Yeah.
And I just tried to generate something a little bit different. Right. And, good or bad doesn't matter. The point is, I'm a fan of books. I'm a fan of reading. I'm a fan of, seeking out mentors, all the things that we should do to create our own luck.
As a fan of reading, what's like your top 3? What are the top 3 books on your list?
Oh man, off the cuff. I mean, it depends. Are we talking business? Or are we talking just cool books?
I would say the 3 most impactful books.
Well, we could throw Patrick Lencioni, The Advantage, in there. It's a dry read, but
Patrick Lencioni is such a good author.
Yeah,
all of his stuff. I love his stories, and then when it gets to the end and it's like the nuts and bolts, then that part I get through the story part really fast, and then the nuts and bolts, it's like but I love all of his concepts.
That's fundamental. John Mackey, Conscious Capitalism, fundamental to my framework. There's this required reading at LoveSac called Insight, which is really about self-awareness. It really stands on the shoulders of Goleman, emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
And everything in that realm. I mean, psycho-cybernetics, there's an old one, but psycho-cybernetics is like the godfather of the entire NLP movement, all the Tony Robbins stuff, all the...
Really? What's it called?
It's this weird book called Psycho-Cybernetics, Cybernetics. So it's so cool because it's written by a plastic surgeon, and you got to read the introduction for it. It's so weird because he was fascinated by the fact that he would do surgery. He performed surgery on these women mostly who would, let's say, wanted a nose job, and he would remove, a lot of their nose. And, after they healed, he'd show them before and after, but he'd stand them in front of a mirror and it was just starkly obvious. And they would be like, I don't see it. I need more. And they would just come back for more and more surgeries. And it's like, what is going on here? Like it's photo A and photo B, and the live view. And his point was their brains were like more powerful than their eyeballs.
Yeah.
And it bred this it caused him to look at how our self-talk and our self-perceptions are formed. And, so he goes into great detail about visualization and how we can imagine the ball going into the bat. So all that stuff, the entire self-help movement, almost started there.
It's so fascinating, the science of it all. Cause like even the other day I was thinking about something and I was like, I wonder if that's not going to work. And then I was like, oh, I can't think that.
That's right.
Like it crept in for a second. And I was like, if this doesn't work, I'll probably, and then I was like, what am I doing? Yeah. Like I can't even breathe any air to that.
To some degree. I mean, there's a school of thought that it's okay as long as you come back to you got to flip it to how can I make that work?
Yeah.
And look, we could go on and on, man. This stuff, I mean, I love it all. And the point isn't about the specifics. I mean, there's 1,000 books on all this stuff. But I believe that if people are really sincerely trying to, so one of our table stakes values at LoveSac, again, back to all this stuff, is being an insatiable learner. And it doesn't have to be books. You might not be into it. It could be podcasts. It could be socializing,
even like YouTube or audiobooks. There's so many platforms to learn to get good information.
That's what's insane is sometimes people ask me, so you were bootstrap, and LoveSac was bootstrapping. I think before that word was invented, I think.
Yeah.
This was late 90s and there weren't even VC funds that did consumer hardly. And we ended up raising VC later, and I didn't realize how early we were, to be some college kids doing a startup.
Yeah.
And it's not like no one had ever done it, but it was just, I've come to learn to appreciate kind of how unique what we were doing was. And what's amazing to me, fast forward to today, is it's more crowded. Yeah, there's a lot more people doing stuff. But the access to information, like you mentioned Hormozy, you mentioned Jesse Itzler, you mentioned all the, Gary Vee's coming on my pod soon.
Like, that's awesome.
All of these just powerhouses of information. I mean, this podcast, I think our conversation has all kinds of little nuggets in it that would have been so useful to me when I was in my 20s.
Because that didn't exist. And
exist.
You couldn't get that information.
Couldn't get it.
Like someone like you yourself or Gary Vee, like you would have never known what Gary Vee was thinking.
We were reading Og Mandino, Psycho-Cybernetics, eventually Daniel Goleman, Emotional Intelligence. And
you got Daniel Pink on your podcast too, right?
Dan Pink, favorite author.
Yeah, he's amazing.
it's just so critical, whatever your medium, that you are an insatiable learner. Fill all the seams and cracks, as I say, with either learning or playing or working. And all of that's important.
Yeah, I think in the beginning, I was like, when I was younger, I was so focused. I wanted to be like an adult right away for some odd reason, like as soon as I was 18, like I started my first business at 19, and it's like, I was in a rush for responsibility. And I wouldn't change anything, but it was an odd thing to look back on. And I can remember getting in an argument with a good friend of mine and my wife at Dave & Buster's of all places about like how I was going to answer the phone if my team called me, like no matter what, like at 9 o'clock, at 10 o'clock, like, and they're like, well, I don't think that's healthy. And I was like vigorously, like, I got mad at them for telling me that I was like wrong. And it just took time for me to realize like the bigger picture and to set the boundaries, and that you ultimately get to create the life that you want. But I was so driven to just move. And I never like allowed myself the freedom to also just have fun.
There's no right way to do it, but it is your life happening to you.
Yeah.
Right now, whatever right now is for you. And if you don't try to enjoy it, if you don't try even the hard stuff, if you don't try to, if you can't enjoy the hard stuff, then you punctuate it with stuff you can enjoy, then your life will escape you, and you'll wake up, in my case, in your mid, late 40s, whatever. And by the way, there's no guarantee that you will be financially successful. I'm certainly not as financially successful as I thought I would be, as early as I thought I would be, especially when I'd been Richard Branson's golden boy at 26 years old or whatever. You know what I mean? Like,
sure, yeah.
I thought I was gonna be Richard Branson for sure by now.
Yeah.
and I've come to not care, which is in itself freeing. But more importantly, I've lived my life, man. I've done so many things that I don't regret. I don't think you could accuse me of working too hard. I don't think you'd accuse me of not working hard, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Somewhere in the middle, you have to decide. But one of the Shawnisms, I unpack is play along the way. And if you don't, you'll just grow old.
Yeah. Well, I can remember, like, I always thought there was like a number of money that was like, oh, once I get there, and I realized like the I'll be happy when moments, like it's never going to work, And as I start to see some of my friends have unbelievable success financially, but then I see what it takes for it. It's like, oh, don't envy something that you don't know what it takes to have, because if you did, you may not want that thing at all.
Yeah. Not only that, but I think to some degree you can make almost anything happen you want to, but everything comes at a price.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, to build on your point, if you may not really appreciate the price that all of that comes, and also the outcome. Like I at this point, just because the way my life's unfolded, I know many billionaires, many 100 millionaires. And I think the vast majority of them might change places with me, to be on my first wife and kids who like me and have a close relationship, and some of the fun that I have. And you don't need big money to have the fun I have. I woke up at 5:30 a.m., went dirt biking. I did 3 hours to Tocqueville Falls, taking every side trail and everything. I'm back to work, by the time everyone's just getting started. And it makes me so happy.
Yeah.
I'll drop 2 or 3 pounds. It's a workout. It's nothing but fun. It's super hard. And it's something that I just love to do. My point being, I don't live a bad life, and it takes like a gallon of gas and a dirt bike. They're not even that expensive. And, and I don't mean to be bougie about it. I'm just saying, like, you don't need a yacht. You don't need a private jet. In fact, most of that world will just eat you alive, and then you'll be old anyway.
Yeah. Right.
So be careful, about what you're really after. It's shocking what a good life you can live without, all that stuff.
Well, even like I am fortunate to have a really healthy work-life balance, but even my 7-year-old just like a few weeks ago was like, Dad, I just wish you didn't have to work. Like I just wish you were here all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But let me tell you something about that. I have an opinion about that.
Let's hear it.
Your 7-year-old will spend the next few years, the bulk of his days at school.
Yeah.
And I guess you could be at home waiting for him to,
right.
Get out. And that's cool if you can, create a life where you can be at the bus every day or whatever it is. But the truth is they need to go to school, and they need to build their own friends, and they need to have relationships outside of yours. And on top of that, I have a friend who retired early. like maybe he was late 30s or 40. And a little while back, he sent me a text. He said, "Hey, I just want you to know I've seen your stuff. And some days I really envy you." And look, this guy rides his road bike every day, does 28 mile, I don't know, whatever. Right.
Yeah.
And
got all the time in the world.
Has buddies, golfs, whatever. And he's there probably, he's a good dad. I'm sure he's there for his kids. But he said to me, my kids don't see me work. I'm kind of worried about that. And I think it's cool that, Shawn, you've built your life in a way where you seem to have fun and but you're working, you're hustling. And so look, he's richer than me. He was richer earlier than me, but they're not everything that looks, what do they say? That's shiny as gold, like I think look, wherever your life has dropped you, I think you need to learn to appreciate it. Be grateful for the problems you have. Cause sometimes if you put your problems on the desk right now with mine, I might not want yours, whatever they are.
Sure.
I might like mine better.
Yeah.
And so, try to just, enjoy it because you'll blink. And in the same time, that, you can remember back in the beginning of COVID, you'll be half a decade older.
That's crazy. I think you're totally right. I love to let my kids see that, and I try and instill those principles in them. And my wife runs our company together with me, and I love that they get to see her doing that and being in that role.
Cool.
And I'm a big Jordan fan, and so my son, I bought a pair of Jordans. He's like, "I want a pair," and he's 7, so it's like, "No, your feet grow too fast. I'm not going to buy you Jordans." He goes, "But I really want them." I said, "Well, I'm sure you could raise the capital for them." He's like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "You have enough people who love you who would be willing to support your journey to your first pair of Jordans." I said, "We got FaceTime. Who do you want to call?" He's like, "Well, what do I say?" It's like, "Will you help me donate to get my first pair of Jordans?"
Oh my gosh.
And within 1 hour, he had made $100.
Wow.
He went to the neighbor's house, because I told him, don't ask for like 20 or $30. Ask for like $3, $5.
Yeah.
It's not going to take that much. And I said, this is business. This is how business works.
Yeah.
You want something that you need money for, that you don't have the money to do. You find people who are willing to support you in getting that thing. And so now he wants to do it all the time. So I told him, like, dude, we can't keep tapping the same well. Like, eventually you're going to have to work for
Mow the
it.
lawn.
Yeah, exactly. But it was so hilarious to see him. Like, he was so driven. I mean, literally within 1 hour, he did it, and we ordered them for him that night.
And look, I mean, there are kids who can barely open their mouth to ask if your, kid is home to play because they're so starved for.
You can't order stuff at restaurants.
That's right. That's a good one. I never order for my kids.
Oh yeah.
I make them speak up and repeat themselves and look the dude in the eye and ask for what they want.
It's like an official phobia now, like not being able to order.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But I've done that for years and years. From the time they were like 4.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We're at
Same
the
with
ice
me.
cream counter. And it's like, no, don't tell me, tell him.
Yeah.
What do you want? And then they can't hear him. It's like, well, speak up.
Right.
And I feel like just those little things have actually, so I love what you just said. There's another chapter in the book, you never know until you ask. And so I love that, it's shocking to me coming from nothing really. I'm coming from a very middle-class upbringing, how much money is out there that wants to find you if you have a good idea.
Yeah.
And it's easy to think like, well, who's going to support this? There's money just roaming the earth, wanting to give it to you if you can grow it for them.
Absolutely.
But that's a mindset that I wasn't aware of.
Yeah. Well, and that's also, then you have to have that confidence in yourself. I think that's a lot of people struggle to be willing to bet on themselves because that's a scary thing to do.
And look, I think also there are a lot of people obsessed with entrepreneurship in any realm, whether it's, I'm in product land, so it's easy to look at. It's tangible, whatever. You're in services land, right?
Yeah.
And that's a great place to be. But then you get, whether it's being an influencer, whatever that means, or, at any level of business, people are obsessed now with entrepreneurship, but not everyone should be an entrepreneur. There's a lot of, I think, innate wiring that I think really enables people to be entrepreneurs that a lot of people don't have and shouldn't. And it's not, shouldn't be glorified so much. It's glorified because the trappings can be so outsized.
Yeah. You don't want everyone to do that because you have to have employees for a society to exist.
That's what I would say. Like if everyone's an entrepreneur, I'd have nobody here doing this with me. And so it's just, I think it's easy to feel like some kind of failure if you don't have some kind of side hustle, if you're not popping off, you're not growing this. But there's nothing wrong with aligning with a great organization and being a part of that. And I don't think there's anything remotely better. You know, there's some interesting facts around this that I think support it. Like back in my Chinese days, I took a year to go work in Shanghai, China as a management training consultant. This is something not a lot of people know. It was a weird situation. It happened through the university. I actually had to leave. I had to take a pause on LoveSac in my college days to go do this.
Oh, wow.
And I taught, you know, leadership training, presentation skills courses to firms like McDonald's, Roche, Siemens.
Were you
Whirlpool,
teaching in Mandarin?
in Mandarin in Shanghai for their multinational groups. And I became an MBTI type administrator. So this is like, back to self-help, this is like the ENFP, ISTJ, the DISC. This is like personality profiling used in business realms in Mandarin. And it was cool. It made my Mandarin really sharp. But, you know, it's so interesting that like 80% of founders are the same type. There's 16 core personality types, if you believe in Jungian psychology, Carl Jung. And of those 16, 80% of founders are the same type.
Wow. That's not surprising.
But it shouldn't be.
Yeah, it's not.
It should be evenly spread. I mean, or you know, whatever. I mean, like many things are sort of evenly spread. And it's an ENFP, right? And I could break that down, but it's flexibility and extroversion and all this other stuff. And on the other hand, 80% of like public company CEOs, like let's call it corporate CEOs, are the opposite type.
Structure, stability.
That's right. And the point being, and there's not just two, there's 16. And so I just think like there's so much innate in us. And it's not to say that you can't be an entrepreneur. It's not to say that you can't be the other 20%. The point is just there are fundamental advantages that people like I don't play basketball. I don't have those fundamental advantages. Yeah. And I think it's really important to be, and that's why I come back to, and I talk about this quite a bit in the book and generally on my podcast. People ask me in different ways, you know, what's the secret to success?
Yeah.
And I come back to the same principle I have for 20 plus years. Self-awareness. Self-awareness is the key to all of it. Because if you can bother to really understand yourself and be honest, be painfully honest with who you are and what you can, it's not to say that you can do anything you want. But you are going to naturally have more success in certain realms if you really understand yourself. And if you are able to do that, it'll put you on a pursuit to all the other stuff it's like an upside down pyramid. It's my belief that it all rests on self-awareness, your understanding of others, the ability to empathize.
Yeah. Who you should and shouldn't engage with and
everything.
Yeah.
What you need to learn, and therefore you can augment. So all the other lessons can come, but you have to first be brutally honest with yourself.
Yeah, I think it's so much, you're going to get so much further when you're just embracing who you are already versus trying to be somebody else. Like I opened up a business in second grade. I don't know why I called it this, called the All Night Midnight Bar, where I just built a little gift shop in my basement. Cool. And then I built a movie theater with like all the VHS tapes that I had. Like I just always had the entrepreneurial drive. Cool. Like it just is and was who I am. And what's interesting is like we had our hospitality business, and one of our executives wanted to have ownership, and it was like, well, you're too late in the game for this one, but I will start a new company with you. No problem. And I'll support that company and help you be successful. And so we did that. And then he has now exited that company. What I realized is he wasn't an entrepreneur. Like it wasn't good for him mentally. Yeah. Like for his mental health.
That's what I'm saying.
And negatively impacted him. And he thought he wanted it. And then he got it and was like, oh shit, this is terrible.
So let me tell you one reason, and you can tell me if I'm right, and it may not be totally right, but in the book I unpack this. I believe that one of the most unsung strengths, maybe the most unsung strengths of founders and entrepreneurs, is the ability to embrace uncertainty.
You have to.
And to live in uncertainty. And for most people, it is this silent, invisible, oppressive force that most people cannot deal with. And I'm not saying like it's something to write home about. I'm just saying that the wiring of an ENFP, for instance, is uniquely suited to deal with uncertain situations. And I think like that's something that's so hard to put your finger on.
Yeah, I can't see it.
Can't talked about a lot. You know, like there's so much uncertainty involved with entrepreneurship and building business and all this stuff that it degrades most people in a way that they can't even put their finger on themselves.
Yeah. I mean, it was really fascinating because he was so good at what he did. And then once he got into that role, then he was not doing like these nominal tasks that he was more than capable of doing.
Yeah.
But it's like the burden and the pressure
Yeah.
of being an owner and having like the buck stop there.
And where do you start? There's 10,000 things to do.
Yeah. And I think that's it. Disability by decision. It was just like, and I know that he knew, but he couldn't see it anymore.
Yeah. And this is why I'm saying, and I don't mean this critically, but not everyone should be an entrepreneur. And I think people should like let themselves off the hook.
Yeah.
Like I think people feel almost pressured these days.
There's definitely a side hustle culture, right? And so when I like go and talk in college classrooms, oftentimes they ask, how do you become successful? And that's why I always revert back to, well, let's define success first, because your success and my success may be completely different.
Yeah.
Like you can have a very happy life going and working for one company for 30 years and just doing your thing. You don't have to worry about it. You show up and you leave. When you leave work, it's over. I don't get to ever leave work necessarily, because if something happens, I'm going to be responsible for it. Right. And that's fine with me. And I'm willing to make that trade, but some people aren't. That's totally okay.
But you know that about yourself, and that person can observe that about themselves if they are students of self-awareness and embrace that.
Yeah. How do you become a student of self-awareness, do you think?
I think it starts with becoming aware of being aware, and then really chasing after it. I think there's just so many good books you can read, from Daniel Goleman, Emotional Intelligence to Insight. I mean, it's a well-treaded realm. I think pursuing the 360-degree kind of feedback, I think accepting, and you have to learn to accept feedback. You have to learn to really hear. There's a lot that goes into it, but I think it just starts like anything, like with, what do they say when the 12 steps, Alcoholics Anonymous, like with recognition or whatever. Yeah.
Admitting you have
you have a problem. We all have the same problem. We are all tragically not self-aware enough, including me.
Yeah.
And so you have to start there, and you have to just be really brutally honest. And so if you can come to the realization, like you said, that you could be perfectly happy as a weekend warrior, putting in a 9 to 5 and getting a side-by-side and doing your thing on the weekend, whatever. If that genuinely makes you happy, then stop feeling guilty.
Yeah. Give yourself permission to let that be your life.
That's right. For not having a side hustle and for not, being economically independent. And I'm not trying to discourage people. I just believe in honesty.
Yeah, I think there's so many ways to live a productive life, and you just got to choose the one that fits you the best.
Yeah, and stop judging others and yourself. Like there is no reason that I should be, celebrated because now, I have a company of yay size and whatever. I mean, it happens, and it looks like it because I wrote a book and I'm on CNBC or whatever. You know what I mean? Yeah. But the reality is, man, I am no better than you or anyone else. We are just humans making our way through, and this happens to be where I, navigated to.
I love that. It's funny talking about those like personality surveys. I did one because I tried to work for Public Storage, like this really great, like awesome company, stability, all these great things. And so I took they had me do a DISC assessment. You familiar with DISC?
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah. And so like S is stability. And I was at like a 3 out of 100. Yeah. And they're like, dude, you'll hate this job.
Yeah, there you go.
Like, because you don't care. Like, I could change your job tomorrow and you'd be like, okay. And he was like, you'll hate this because this job will never change.
And my wife hates it when I bring up, the MBTI. The DISC is the same kind of matrix. It all stands on the shoulders of Jungian psychology, in my opinion.
I got to look into that.
Types. How do you Carl Jung, Jung. And, that's kind of like psycho-cybernetics. That's getting to the root. I'm a big believer in getting to the roots. But people hate it because they feel like, you can't put me in a box. I'm not one of 16. Listen, your entire biomass is 4 letters, right? Your entire DNA, everything that you are is 4 proteins. And so don't tell me that there's not patterns.
Yeah, right.
Just because we're talking now about your psychology and your brain. You know what I mean? And certainly, man, we're all individuals, no doubt, because they're super complex. But I believe in this stuff tremendously.
Yeah, I do too. I find it all fascinating. Well, I want to be really respectful of your time. And I don't know how we already went through 60 minutes, but we did. But I can't let you off the hook without answering this question. And that is, how do you define success?
I define success by I define success as an endless pursuit of self-awareness that brings your life into harmony with what you can and probably should be. And I am so passionate about people achieving success in that way, because life is just miserable otherwise.
Yeah, no kidding. And life's too short to not be happy.
Absolutely.
Figure it out, you know? Well, Shawn, thank you so much. If you're listening to this podcast, go pick up the book, Let Me Save You 25 Years. I know it's for sure on Amazon. I don't know if you have your own website too.
Yeah, it's everywhere. I mean,
Everywhere,
LoveSac, let me save you 25years.com or whatever. And I don't, get it. All proceeds are donated to the Future Business Leaders of America. There's no money on this. I just want it out there. I think there's useful stuff in there, and I really appreciate your support.
Absolutely. And also go check out his podcast. Amazing guests like Sarah Blakely, Urban Meyer, Rob Gronkowski, Daniel Pink, soon to be Gary Vee.
Yeah.
I mean, that's as good as it gets. You can't get a better group of people to learn from than that. So Shawn, thank you so much for being here. And I can't wait to keep learning from you.
Thanks for having me.